Good morning. I'm Manuel Chavez, and I'm a member of the Friends of Children Society, a member of the business community, and a proud father of 4. 16,000 children. That's nearly enough to fill the U.S. Bank Arena. As Tracy just shared with you, that's how many children were served last year by the Hamilton County Job and Family Services. Many of them are abused, neglected, forgotten. The court must oversee more than 3,000 of these children, after most of them are removed from their homes due to the severity of the abuse and the neglect. It is these children Pope Francis spoke of last year when he came to our country and said, "I would like to call attention to the young. For many of them, a future filled with countless possibilities beckons. Yet so many others seem trapped in a hopeless maze of violence, abuse, despair. Their problems are our problems. I am here because ProKids provides the effective solution Pope Francis challenged us to find. ProKids enables us to take action. I know this is true because in the nearly 15 years that I've known about ProKids, I've gotten to know the people, and the people are great. Although I have found the ProKids difference is about more than the people. It's about the way ProKids works every day to craft thoughtful solutions. As a small businessman, I would describe the elements of this solution in the terms of capital, cost, and a leveraged return. What is the capital we're talking about? The capital is the children themselves, the promise that lives inside each of them. Will this little girl be the one to walk on Mars? Will this little boy be the one to cure cancer? The waste of human capital begins in their childhoods. Foster children are twice as likely to be absent from school. How can they learn if they're not even there? If exposed to domestic violence, they're likely to have an IQ about 8 points lower than those that are not exposed to it. That's a bigger impact than lead exposure in a young child. And by the time they're 16 years old, most of these children will only be able to read at a 6th grade level. Children placed into foster care have already faced something called adverse childhood experiences, known as ACEs. ACEs impacts children rich and poor. The impact touches all of our homes. But for the children we're talking about today, the ACEs pile up and correlate to mental health issues, physical ailments, and even a reduced life expectancy. All of this trauma means that foster children often suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD afflicts nearly 20% of children placed in foster care. That's more than the average impact of PTSD on veterans from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Desert Storm. It's like our children are in a war right here in Cincinnati. What is the cost to our community? James Heckman, a Nobel laureate in economics, put it this way: the most effective strategy for strengthening the future workforce and improving its quality of life is to invest in the environments of disadvantaged children during the early childhood years. So let's look at the actual cost of not investing in these children. Without a permanent home, they will age out of the system. And when that happens, the human cost is staggering. Only 50% will graduate from high school by the age of 18. Fewer than 3% will earn a college degree by the age of 25. These young adults are more likely to be homeless. They're more likely to experience chronic unemployment. And with these odds stacked against them, 71% of the young women who age out in foster care will become mothers before they're 21. Imagine their lives as a single mother, and imagine what this means for their children. And this cycle of poverty and lost opportunity does not end there. After they leave foster care, our community's children are 7 times more likely to become addicted to drugs. And they're more likely to go to prison. In fact, the boys raised in foster care are 4 times more likely to commit a crime once they become adults. And the girls are 10 times more likely to commit that crime. The cost of lost opportunity in these children's lives crosses into generations to come. I can look back at my own family and see how that plays out. My granddad, growing up in rural New Mexico, was sent out the door on Saturdays with a basket of apples, and he was told not to come home until he sold them. And boy, did he learn to sell. So it's not completely surprising that after he served in the U.S. Navy, went to college on the GI Bill, and became a teacher, he began to sell real estate and eventually started his own company. He was the first in his family to attend college, and he and my grandmother realized that a college degree was a path forward. And you can bet they've instilled that into their children, their grandchildren, and now their great-grandchildren. But most of the children we are talking about this morning do not have that path forward. And they are not growing up to take a role in the workforce, much less start their own companies. This leads to a generational cycle of poverty. We know what that looks like right here in Cincinnati, with more than 44% of our children already in poverty. That's twice the national average. And children raised in poverty are 46 more times likely to become foster children. So we're talking about the cost of the medical care, the mental health care, the drug abuse treatment, possible jail time, homelessness, and the young parenthood. It's an overwhelming cost, measured in both dollars and cents and in lost opportunity. See, but then it's compounded because we must add the cost of the next generation growing up the exact same way. Or we can come together and invest just $2,500 a year to provide a ProKids CASA volunteer who will make sure that each child moves as quickly as possible to a safe, permanent, and nurturing home. Doesn't it just make sense to break this cycle? To leverage our dollars with the gift of time from a ProKids CASA volunteer. These community of volunteers have firsthand knowledge of a child, their challenges, and their goals. Most importantly, they help get services and placements which are in the child's best interest. ProKids swore in a record number of CASA volunteers today. More than 40 new volunteers are now part of the ProKids family. Through them and all the other ProKids CASA volunteers, we will directly advocate for more than 700 children this year. ProKids works with other organizations, public and private, to maximize the impact on all children in the child protection system. ProKids proves its value with measurable outcomes. Abuse and neglect stops for 99% of children ProKids serves. Now compare that to the nearly 1 out of 3 foster care children likely to be abused or neglected while in the system. 97% of ProKids children receive appropriate educational services and therapeutic interventions. ProKids CASA volunteers through the Building Blocks training program are uniquely positioned to connect these children at a critical time in their development to the community resources that can help preschoolers. CASA volunteers know how to advocate for children in elementary school and high school, making sure they get the right help at the right time. Our children have suffered terribly, but they are not without hope. With ProKids, our children have a chance at something we assume everyone has, and that's a childhood. I think a lot about the future generation since becoming a dad a decade ago. And I've come to realize that the future is more than what I directly provide to my 4 girls. It's bigger than that. Their future is tied to the future of all the other children growing up here. I've come to realize that these children belong to all of us, as surely as the ones that we raise ourselves. These children are in our children's classrooms. They're on the playgrounds they share. Someday they'll work in the same workplaces. And when they grow up, they will live in our community together. So what do we want for them? By investing today, we make an impact on Cincinnati's tomorrow. By investing today, we change the future for every child. By investing today, we can get our arms around this critical problem at a crucial time. After all, it's not insurmountable. There are 3,000 children in our community that have been removed from their homes. We will directly serve 700 of them this year. We can advocate for more than them. We can help all of them. We need to get this right. You need to be part of the solution. to invest in our shared future, our shared community, and our shared economy. You need to be part of ProKids. There's no better way to show how this solution works than with a story. What we're about to share illustrates the power of ProKids in one local family, and how one particular CASA volunteer, supported by people like each of you, demonstrates the ProKids difference. Here is the story of how two little children found their best chance.